Kumbe tulikuwa wengi hivi. Ni fire si fire, ni noma si noma. Asanteni sana viongozi wote ambao wako hapa, waziri wetu dadangu Hana, Mrs. Cheptumo, magavana kiwemo ndugu zangu Governor Chelilim na Governor Mutai, PS wetu, my sister Umi, wabunge, iko Joseph hapa ambaye niliacha hii town miaka mingi iliyopita, na mbunge wangu wako area anaitwa Mheshimiwa Ruto, mbunge wa Keses, my local MP, na viongozi wote ambao wako hapa, leaders wa Singishu, viongozi ambao wanasimamia the Kenya Music and Cultural Festival, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Nimefurahi sana kurudi hapa Eldoret. Wale ambao hawakusikia, mimi nilikuwa mtu ya town hii. Niliishi hapa kama miaka 8 kiwa kijana, najua sehemu zote za town hii. Nilifanya mambo mengi hapa. So ukiona nasumbuliwa hapa, mjue labda ni ile madeni niliacha hapa. Sababu sasa siku hiyo nilikuwa kijana. Lakini nilikuwa kijana mzuri. Nimesikia huyu governor akisema ile kazi tulikuwa tunafanya. Na nimefurahi sana kurudi Eldoret. Eldoret is a special town for me because this is where I started my career, and even my first child was born in this town at UG Memorial Hospital. And I wish she was around, I would have brought her with me. Kinyako safari kidogo. She's now grown up. So it's always a pleasure to be back in Eldoret. Eldoret is home for me. Eldoret ni nyumbani. Mimi nataka nishukuru Wizara ya mambo ya utamaduni, turathi za taifa na mambo ya sanaa, jinsia na usawa kwa maandalizi mema ambayo wamefanya mambo ya hii hafla. Mheshimiwa Rais alikuwa akuje yeye mwenyewe, lakini kama mnavyojua alikuwa na safari, alafu hakuweza kufika in good time to be able to attend. Kaniambia jana usiku nikuje leo asubuhi nimwakilishe. Kwa sababu mmesema hii ndio mara ya kwanza ofisi ya Rais kuwakilishwa, nataka niwahakikishie kwamba nikirudi nitamwambia ya kwamba mmesema next year akuje yeye in person. Therefore, part of my duty kama msaidizi wa Rais ni kwenda kumsukuma kuhakikisha kwamba next year akuje yeye mwenyewe, mimi nitakuja nikimsindikisha. Sitaki kurudia yale yamesemwa hapa, lakini it's important to realize the place of music and culture in our nation building. And most of us here, especially those of us who are older, parents, and even the young people who are here, you know very well that our country is facing a lot of challenges on the social and family space. Because of new technologies and exposure to the internet, many of our children seems to be carried away progressively from the foundations on which our country and our nation was established. Many of our children today do not have much respect for our traditions and culture. They have no role, or they have very little respect for elders and very little respect for the community and its traditions. Therefore, we must work hard to recover the foundations of our nation. And I want to make it clear that language and culture are the strongest form of identity that you can ever have. Language and culture is stronger than any education you can get anywhere. Language and culture is stronger than any profession or any career. The stability of the human person, if you want to be a human being who is solid and anchored, that anchorage is found in your identity, and your identity is in your language and in your culture. Ndio Waswahili wakasema mwacha mila ni mtumwa. Any person who abandons culture is a slave and has no identity. That is why those who wrote our Constitution carefully inserted language and culture in the very early provisions of our Constitution. Just immediately after the preamble of our Constitution and the bedrock constitutional principles that appear there, language and culture comes very early. Kiangalia vile katiba yetu imeundwa, mambo yale muhimu katika katiba yanakuja pale mbele. The description of our country, the territory of our country, the constitution of our country and the 47 counties. Immediately after that, in Article 7, you discover it talks about need for the state to protect languages. English and Kiswahili are official languages, and immediately below there, our indigenous Kenyan languages are recognized, and the state promote those indigenous Kenyan languages. That is Article 7. Go to Article 11, and you find the state again given the duty to promote cultural expression of all the people of Kenya in their communities and in their various identities. That Article 11 on cultural expression, and cultural expression is through music, it's through language, it's through arts and other performances. It's preceded by Article 10, which has our national values and principles of governance: patriotism, national unity, respect for human rights and human dignity, equality, etc., etc. So if you look at our Constitution, the first 10 or so, 11 articles, before you go to the Bill of Rights, those are the foundational principles upon which our nation is founded. And among those foundational principles, language, identity, culture is part and parcel of the foundational principles of our republic. Therefore, brothers and sisters, as we build our nation, we must look at the nation-building projects from two perspectives. We have to build a solid, resilient, long-term nation that survives all manner of shocks, social shocks, political shocks, environmental shocks. including climate change. We must build this nation. First, the hardware of the nation. What is the hardware of the nation? The roads, the railways, connecting us with electricity and water and internet, the things that define the modern world. We must up our game. And you have heard the president saying, we have done quite a bit in the last 60 years to build our country. We have built 22,000 kilometers of roads, but these are not enough if we have to be a modern country. We have connected 10,600 households with electricity out of the 10,600,000 households are today connected with electricity, making Kenya one of the most connected countries in Africa at 75% connectivity with electricity. Some of the African countries are at 11%. We are left only with slightly under 5 million households, about 4 million households actually. And we'll get universal connectivity by the year 2030 in accordance with Vision 2030. We've made strides to provide water. But you have heard the president say the speed of our nation building, the speed of building the hardware for our country is very slow. That's why he has said we look for innovative ways of looking for resources to build more roads, to provide more water, to provide more electricity, and also to encourage manufacturing, to create enough jobs for our young people. That is how we build the hardware of our country. You have seen the president launch the Rironi Mau Summit Road. During that road, which is going to be a signature project for this government, and the president has said by 2027, in the next 2 years, that section should be complete up to my summit. So that after 2027, now we expand it to include the section from my summit to Eldoret, to Malaba, and the other section will go through Kericho into Kisumu, again into Uganda. So, and there are many other parts of the country we are building dual carriageways because we need enough resources to build enough roads. In 60 years, we have only done 22,000 kilometers of roads. Very little. Japan, which has also had a roads building program for 60 years, just like Kenya, has done 1.1 million kilometers of roads in 60 years. We've done 22,000. So we are expediting the development of Kenya. More roads. We are expanding Nairobi, Mombasa. And the first section, we have money now to build the first section from Machakos Standoff all the way to Emali. And the president will be launching in February the expansion of Mombasa Road into a dual carriageway. We have others, and you heard him mention all the roads, including the road to Namanga, and so forth. We need more roads as part of our hardware of our country. Water is not enough. You have heard what the governor of Wasilishu has said, my home governor. He's saying we need, as Eldoret assumes the role of a city, we need more water. The president has said we need resources to build 50 megawatt dams, 200 mid-sized dams, and over 1,000 smaller dams in the shortest time possible. Water, drinking, water for irrigation, water for sewerage, and we need to irrigate a new 2 million acres to remove this embarrassment of hunger all the time and famine. There are countries where they don't receive a drop of rain, but you'll never hear famine or hunger. They have food. So for a long time, we have confused rain and water. The two are not connected. You can even have no rains, but you have water. And so, more water, more electricity, more roads. The railways, we are now doing the railway line 2B and 2C. One line will come through Eldoret, Malaba. The other one will go through Bomet into Kisumu, all the way to Malaba. And because we have oil in Turkana, we need also to extend into Lokichar to be able to transport the oil. We are building a new airport at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. The one we have is old. We want to move the number of people coming through Jomo Kenyatta International Airport from 8 million currently to 100 million, so that we can match airports like the Dubai International Airport. Where do we get money from? We are looking at public-private partnerships. We are also looking at privatization, where we reduce the stake that government has in some of the strategic assets, but use that money not to pay salaries, not to pay recurrent expenditure, but put that money to build dams and roads and modernize our country the shortest time possible. So that project of building the hardware of our country is on course. But there is a second pillar of our transformation, and that is the software of Kenya. Because as much as we want to build a modern Kenya with modern infrastructure, as much as we want to have human capital, great engineers and researchers and professors who will give us good research outputs to transform our country into the first world, those engineers, those doctors, and all those experts and researchers must be ethical people with some form of humanity. And that's why we need to promote the software of Kenya. Our ethics, our values is as important as the roads, the water, and the electricity. Nataka niseme ya kwamba ili nchi yetu iendelee, tunaendelea kujenga barabara, mabawa ya maji, kuweka stima na mambo ya kisasa ikiwemo maneno ya internet. Lakini lazima vile vile tujenge taifa letu kwa mambo ya kifamilia, mambo ya kiutu, tuwe na watu wazalendo. Those values in Article 10 of our Constitution, patriotism. You can love your country, even if you don't like particular people. Those two things are not connected. You may not like me as a person, but the love for the country should be able to persuade you not to do some things for the sake of our motherland. Those national values like patriotism, human dignity, respect for others, human rights, we need to teach our children so that you don't have engineers who are committing suicide because of stress. You want an engineer who is at peace with himself, with the family, and with the community they live in. And therefore, this is the commitment of the government of Kenya, that as much as we build the hardware of our country going forward, we want to invest more resources now in building the software of our country, promote good morals, because children who are intellectually gifted but they have poor morals are headed nowhere. They end up being useless people, struggling with suicide thoughts, struggling with their own personal identity issues. So we need to invest more resources in nurturing patriotic, culturally sensitive, upright children who can take over the development of our country when we phase out with the adults. And therefore, Now that by the grace of God, under the leadership of President William Ruto, we have found innovative ways of easing pressure on our budget so that as we build more roads and provide water and electricity, we don't have to rely all the time on the budgets and the taxes of the people of Kenya. We can use PPP. We can use privatization. As we ease pressure on our budget, we are going to increase the allocation to the ministries and the state departments that help us build the software of our nation, because the software is as important as the hardware. Because if you have upright children, patriotic children, well-educated, and then you have good infrastructure, you have a successful country. Look at all the successful countries of the world. The economic superpowers of the world. They not only have modern infrastructure, they also have a very strong love for their countries. They are very patriotic, very protective of their nation and the values for which their nations are established. They could have differences. Maybe some of them do not vote for a particular government, which is okay, in their right, but there are things they will never do. They will never destroy the country. They will never destroy the infrastructure of the country. They will never endanger the security of the country, because the country is superior to all of us. So going forward, good people, we are going now to use the national budget a little more, in a more flexible manner, because we have found ways of easing pressure by finding alternative, innovative funding models for our infrastructure, so that we invest now in the software of the nation, national values, human dignity, family values, protecting our children from negative cultural practices, protecting families, fighting gender-based violence, establishing a culture of respect for one another, men and women, children, and promoting coexistence among communities, because nobody made an application to speak the language they speak. That was given by God. Nobody made an application to be born where they were born. We all found ourselves in this country speaking different languages. The Constitution demands all of us be protected in our diversity, in our different languages, and in our different cultures. It's even biblical. God ordered and God established all these nations of the earth in their languages, in their families, and in their nations. And as I sat here listening to beautiful renditions and music and poems sung in our different languages, I was asking myself, why are we so thankless? Sometimes we don't appreciate we have a beautiful, beautiful country in our diversity. Mimi nataka niwashukuru wote ambao wamehusika katika kutukumbusha tamaduni zetu, na niwahakikishie azimio la serikali ya Kenya kulinda jamii zote, watu wote wa taifa la Kenya, bila mbalimbali, lugha mbalimbali, watoto, akina mama na wazee. Hii ni nchi yenu, na mimi nimesema ya kwamba sasa, kwa sababu tumepata njia ya kutafuta rasilimali za kujenga barabara na reli bila kuongeza kodi, bila kuongeza mzigo kwa wananchi, sasa ile pesa ya kodi ya bajeti ya kawaida tutaongeza katika wizara na idara za serikali ambazo zinatusaidia kujenga mambo ya kifamilia na mambo ya Ukenya ambayo ni muhimu sana, kama vile barabara na maji na stima. That is the commitment, and it is a constitutional imperative that we must do those things. So mimi sitaki kuongea sana, nimesikia yale mambo viongozi wameongea hapa. Naambiwa kwamba hii shule inataka library. So toka hapa mimi naenda kutafuta pesa ya serikali, nimeambiwa 170 million jenga library hapa. Kwa sababu nimefika hapa, sasa hiyo mzigo mniachie. Sasa ni mtu mmoja tu nitauliza. Mimi najua the answer is yes. But now that you have told me, let me go and look for 170 million. Tukuje tujenge watoto wetu wapate resource center nzuri ya kisasa, wasome, kwa sababu hao ndio tegemeo la taifa letu la Kenya. Vile vile umesikia yale governor umesema, we will follow up through our normal conversations. We'll support you to deliver to the people of Uasin Gishu. I think I leave it there for now. Mimi nimeshukuru sana wa waziri wa PS au ambao wamefanya hii kazi yote, wale ambao wamekuwa participants, educators, na wale wote ambao wamehusika. Sasa kwa sababu imefika mwisho, naomba najua utapanga namna hii, pata matatizo niko area namna hii tuendelee. Ama namna gani jameni? Ni fire si fire, inoma si noma. Hii maneno imefika mpaka kwa music festival. Hii maneno ya fire imefika mpaka huku. Mimi nawaomba tuunge serikali yetu mkono, tuunge rais wetu, kiongozi wetu mkono. Na mimi nimewahakikishia next year I will persuade the president to come, because he is the leader of our country. As he leads us to build modern airports and roads and railways, he also must lead us in getting the right values, getting the right attitudes, and getting the right societal priorities that will form a strong, resilient nation. The president is not just the leader of our hardware project. He is also the country's leader for our software as a country. Kwa hayo mengi na machache, asanteni sana. Sasa mzigo kwako waziri na PS, hao watu wakitoka hapa wawe wamefurahi. Kama kuna shida niko area.